this this is a this is an example of how overly complicated powers can be neat sometimes, but at the same time they could be so annoying that they just make reading the chapters a little bit agitating. Like this whole chapter was in a manner that made me just be like, can we please get a TLDR version of this? Like it's easy to understand when you look at like how the power exactly works at like a, but like if you do the whole overly complicated thing and then give it like a super simplified version of explaining it, because when they're going through all about Kirara's powers in this chapter, really all you have to say is it's like checkpoints. There are 5 points that Kirara can put onto people and things, and if you are a number, you have to go in a specific route. Like if you're a 2, you before you go to 4, you have to go to wherever point 3 is. Like legitimately just think of it kind of like that. Or like how in Pokemon, like you have those tile floors like in some of the levels where if you end up going to the wrong square, it will end up teleporting you back to a certain location. Think of something like that. Or like how you have like the little tracks where if you step on the wrong one, it'll send you a different spot, or a pitfall or something. Anything that says you have to go to X, like position X before you go to position Y, and then eventually position Z. Like it's really that simple, but at the same time, it's an annoying power from the fact that it took that long. It took like the whole chapter and a half to kind of describe it and use all of like the weird namings that Kirara's power works. Like talking about like the Southern Cross and like all the different stars and the points where like how exactly his power function. I really wish it was like, oh well, this is a weird power. How can we explain it in like a super easy way to where it doesn't take up like a chapter and a half? I'm sorry to Akutami for like sometimes like obviously like Akutami's working himself to the bone, like working a lot extra, but it's like, man, you could have saved yourself so much time and energy if you just gave stuff like this a much more hasty explanation. Maybe that's what he was going for. It's like, if I make this overly complicated, I can spend probably a good amount less time on like this chapter than like if he was just like moving things a lot faster. Like, cause there's stuff we could just do. Oh, okay, well I'll have X amount more panels just explaining the power, like just kind of like giving diagrams and whatnot. Like again, complicated powers like this can be neat, but like someone like I keep almost saying Gojo. I wish that people have been influencing me. Satoru, I prefer his name because Gojo's his clan, but in this whole setup with Kirara, like this was one similar to like Naobito's the whole FPS thing where it's like, man, you're putting in too much. Can I please get like an easier explanation for some of these powers? Like they're not impossible to understand, but sometimes they're just annoying to kind of like where you have to really think about how exactly they function. And then when you finally it's like, oh well, that's easy. Like Satoru's gets down to the way that you can describe something like his color attacks. It's like, okay, like spatial manipulation, like easy. Like once you get down to like how it works at a very like most brief level, it's super simple to understand. Like in this case, like I said, just think of checkpoints with Kirara. 4 checkpoints. If you're a 1, you have to go all the way through the next 3 numbers, 2, 3, or 2, 3, and 4 before you get to 5, and vice versa. If you're 4, you have to go to 5. You can't just go to 2. I would imagine the same thing in reverse. Like if you're a 4 before you get to 2, you got to go to 3. So that whole thing, like, as they're kind of just going over the powers in this chapter, and they're just doing their thing, kind of like going through the whole explanation. Because at the same time, like, I don't have a lot to talk about in this chapter, because they're just going through this whole, like, fishing to find out information on Kirara's powers. And it's a good one, like, just the way that, like, Kirara's using it, like, where he can at any point alter, like, where certain positions are. Because I would assume at that point, like, you put a 3 on somebody, and then you put 5 on yourself. As long as you put 4 between you and the other person, like, suddenly, like, if you put it, 30 feet away, he's going to end up, like, the second he's close to you, getting shot over to a specific location. That way it kind of keeps you locked up. Like, it's a good move. But at the same time, like, now that they've beaten this guy and they figure out how it works, it's something that once you figure out, I don't imagine it's that difficult, especially someone like Megumi. I don't know why Megumi just didn't fade into the shadows. Like, would he be able to, like, would Kira be able to affect him with his shadow? I would assume he could, because, like, it's still, like, they're both still cursed energy techniques, so, like, I would assume he can put that on his shadow, because, like, he can, like, the powers in the series can't, like, from what we've seen, you can't apply it to things that are specifically cursed energy based. It doesn't really seem to matter nearly as much with all these powers if it's an inanimate object or a person, as long as cursed energy is involved and present in their powers. Like, look at Toto. Like, everything has a little bit of cursed energy, so he can swap himself and other things at, like, a pretty long range of nearly everything. But outside of that, like, it was a pretty okay chapter. Like, this wasn't too good. Like, I really want to get past this part. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not too interested in these matches. I don't really care about Hikari. I want to get to the Culling game. I want to see, like, Noritoshi. I'm messing up my words now. It's been so long. But I want to see stuff with him. I want to get back to, like, the bigger characters and larger events. Like, this has just been Megumi scuffling with this dude for the last couple chapters, and then Yuji kind of, like, aggressively getting talked to on a couch by Hikari. I really want to move past this point and get to either, like, maybe seeing how Kukisaki is she alive? Like, how are people getting prepped for the Culling game? What bad guys are going to be there? Are we going to see any other curses that are kind of, like, arriving? Like, are there going to be other special grade curses that are out there, like, showing up? Maybe there's some that knew Jogo. Actually, is Jogo still alive? No. Jogo died. I forgot completely. Like, he died during his fight with Sukuna. Like, all of them really died in that arc, now that I think about it. You had Nanami obviously get freaking splattered. You had Dagon get completely wrecked by Toji. You had Mahito get... Well, Mahito's not dead, but I mean, he's a Pokeball now with Kamo, so... they're not looking too good. But, like, I would assume there's other special grade cursed spirits that are out there that maybe Jogo knew at some point. But anyway, other than that, though, like I said, it was a pretty alright chapter. Nothing too crazy. It was mostly just fighting with a lot of exposition and explanation. I would have preferred more choreography and more, like, neat aspects rather than just a long explanation of how Kirara's powers work. I will say, this is, like, what I'm going to put on the table, Akutami. You better make Kirara a frequent character in this arc. And I don't mean that in a way where, like, you have to do it for, like, X, Y. It's like, no, you had a character with this kind of power that you had to take this much time explaining. This character needs to be relevant in this arc, so I can see a lot of cool events happen with Kirara around, and, like, knowing how his power works, I can be like, anytime that it's used, be like, okay, cool. Like understanding how certain scenes go the way they do because of, like, this long explanation chapter. Make this guy relevant in this arc. Because, like, the series is almost over, so if he's not going to be relevant in the Culling game arc, I would assume that Kirara is not going to be relevant in the rest of the story, which would be really annoying. But yeah. Anyway, other than that, comment below, thumbs up the video, but from the like button, subscribe button, and check out my other videos. Other than that, I appreciate everyone's already subscribed. I thank you all for listening. Bye.